Lisbon sleeps beside the Atlantic, a city of echoes, music, and quiet golden light. But on this night, under the fierce glow of stadium floodlights, silence would not last. Because football, the world's most beautiful game, was about to reveal one of its darkest wounds. The air inside the stadium trembled with anticipation. Scarves lifted. Voices rose. Cameras searched the faces of heroes preparing to write another European story. For millions watching across continents, this was more than a match. It was ritual. It was passion. It was hope. When the whistle finally cut through the noise, the rhythm of competition began. Every pass carried tension. Every tackle felt heavier than usual. Two proud clubs chasing the same dream, moving carefully through the early minutes as if the night itself were watching. Then, in a single instant, everything changed. The ball reached a young forward near the edge of the area. He shifted his weight, lifted his head, and curved the strike toward the far corner. Time slowed. The goalkeeper stretched. The crowd held its breath. The net moved. Goal. For a heartbeat, football was pure again. Joy exploded from one side of the stadium while disbelief froze the other. A celebration began, dance, emotion, the release of pressure carried for weeks. But joy can be fragile. And sometimes, it lasts only seconds. As the celebration unfolded near the corner flag, tension crept into the moment. Voices rose from nearby. Words, quiet, sharp, and hidden from cameras, cut through the noise. The smile faded. Confusion replaced celebration. Then anger. Then something deeper than anger. The player turned away from the crowd and ran toward the referee, pointing, speaking urgently, searching for recognition of something that should never exist on a football pitch. The referee listened. Players gathered. Gestures became sharper. And then came the signal, arms crossed in the shape the modern game now understands too well. The match stopped. Thousands inside the stadium fell into restless uncertainty. Millions watching at home leaned closer to their screens. Because when football stops like this, everyone knows the reason may be bigger than sport. Minutes passed slowly. Arguments unfolded in small circles across the pitch. Some players tried to calm the situation. Others defended teammates. Confusion spread like a shadow moving across the grass. In the stands, emotion shifted from excitement to agitation. Boos echoed. Security watched carefully. The atmosphere, once electric with sport, now pulsed with something heavier, something uncomfortable. At the center of it all stood a single accusation. An accusation that has haunted football for generations. An accusation the sport has promised, again and again, to erase. Racism. Whether whispered or shouted, proven or denied, the word alone was enough to change the meaning of the night. Because racism does not belong to rivalry. It does not belong to competition. It belongs only to pain. Players from both sides spoke urgently to officials. Some insisted nothing had happened beyond normal provocation. Others believed a line had been crossed that should never be crossed. Truth and denial faced each other under the floodlights, neither willing to step back. The delay stretched on. And in that silence, a familiar question returned to the world of football. How many times must this happen before it truly ends? Eventually, the match resumed. The ball moved again. Passes, tackles, and chances tried to pull the story back toward sport. But something invisible had already changed. Every touch of the ball now carried tension. Every sound from the crowd felt louder. Every second moved with the weight of unfinished emotion. When the final whistle finally arrived, it did not feel like an ending. One team had won. The scoreboard confirmed it. But victory sounded quieter than usual, as if celebration itself understood the moment was incomplete. Because some nights in football are not remembered for goals. They are remembered for what those goals could not hide. Long after the players left the pitch, the conversation continued. Inside dressing rooms. Across television studios. through phones glowing in the dark around the world. Some demanded punishment. Some demanded evidence. Some simply demanded change. And at the heart of the storm stood a familiar figure. A player whose talent brings joy to millions. Yet whose career has too often been shadowed by the same ugly hatred. This was not the first time. That truth made the night heavier. Because repetition turns incidents into patterns. And patterns reveal problems deeper than any single stadium. Football has launched campaigns. Football has written rules. Football has promised progress. Yet the question refuses to disappear. Why does this keep happening? Perhaps because football reflects the world beyond the stadium. A world still struggling with history, identity, and difference. A world where change moves slower than hope. But football is also something more. It is one of the few languages spoken everywhere. One of the few stages where the entire planet watches together. And that is why moments like this matter so much. Because when darkness appears here, the whole world sees it. And when courage appears here, the whole world sees that too. In the quiet after the storm, the image that remained was simple. A player walking toward the tunnel, carrying more than the result of a match. Carrying frustration. Carrying dignity. Carrying the weight of speaking out once again. To play football is to accept pressure. To accept criticism. To accept defeat. But no athlete should have to accept hatred for who they are. That is the line sport must defend. Not tomorrow. Not in another campaign. But now. Because every child watching from a distant country believes football is fair. Believes talent is enough. Believes dreams are safe inside the game. What happens on nights like this shapes those beliefs. It tells the next generation whether football truly belongs to everyone. And maybe that is why the silence after the final whistle felt so powerful. Because silence can mean many things. Confusion. Reflection. Or the beginning of change. History shows that progress in sport rarely arrives quietly. It arrives through voices that refuse to stay silent. Through moments that force uncomfortable truth into the light. Through courage repeated again and again until the world finally listens. So this night in Lisbon will be remembered for more than a scoreline. It will be remembered as another test. Of football's promises. Of football's values. Of football's future. The game will continue. New matches will come. New goals will be scored. Crowds will sing again. But the real victory football still seeks is not written on any scoreboard. It is written in respect. In equality. In the simple belief that every player belongs. Until that victory arrives, the story is not finished. And so the question remains, echoing far beyond one stadium, one night, one incident. Will football finally defeat racism? Or will the fight continue, carried on the shoulders of the players who refuse to accept it? The answer does not live in a single match. It lives in what the world chooses to do next. Because football is more than a game. It is a mirror. And what we choose to see in that mirror will decide the future of the sport we love. The final whistle in Lisbon did not bring silence. Instead, it opened a new chapter, one written not with the ball, but with words. At the center of the storm stood Vinicius Jr., a player who had just delivered victory on the pitch, yet once again found himself speaking about pain beyond the game. In the hours after the match, his message carried anger and exhaustion. He spoke about racism as something persistent, something cowardly, something that still tries to hide in the shadows of football. For him, this night was not isolated, it was part of a pattern the sport has struggled to erase. Nearby, another global voice refused to remain quiet. Kylian Mbappé publicly supported his teammates' account and demanded strong consequences if racist language had truly been used. His reaction transformed the incident from a moment of controversy into a wider call for accountability, showing how modern football stars are increasingly willing to confront injustice directly rather than ignore it. But across the divide, denial answered accusation. The young Benfica player Gianluca Prestiani rejected the claim, insisting that his words had been misunderstood and that no racism had occurred. In that instant, the story became more complex, truth and doubt standing face to face under the same floodlights. From the touchline, experience tried to calm emotion. Coach Jose Mourinho spoke carefully, acknowledging the seriousness of racism in football while avoiding a direct judgment before any investigation. His tone reflected a reality the sport knows well. Moments like this demand both justice and caution, because their impact reaches far beyond one match. And this is where the story moves beyond Lisbon, beyond one stadium, beyond one night. Because their impact reaches far beyond one match. And this is where the story moves beyond Lisbon, beyond one stadium, beyond one night. Because racism in football is never only about a single incident. It is about history that still lingers, systems still learning, and voices still fighting to be heard. Every time a player speaks, the game is forced to look at itself again. Every time the world watches, the responsibility grows heavier. My final thought is simple, but difficult. Football has the power to unite cultures, nations, and generations in a way almost nothing else can. If a game with that much beauty cannot fully defeat racism, then the challenge is not only football's, it is the world's. But change has always begun the same way. With courage. With truth. And with people who refuse to stay silent. So the real ending of this story has not been written yet. It will be written in the decisions that follow. In the justice that may come. And in whether football finally becomes the equal game it promises to be.